So many of you already know about the patient revolution, but just briefly, the strength of the patient revolution is our big tent approach. While our name leads with patient, we are a community of care activists, patients, educators, clinicians, researchers, students, and more who know that we need to chart a totally different path for the future of healthcare. We are international because regardless of how it is funded, universally care is being eroded. It is our collective mission to reject industrialization and instead create the conditions for care to flourish. To truly create the political, financial, and cultural environment that elevates care over profit, productivity, and process will take generations. But we know that people are fed up today and they want to do something now. If you're here because you want to be part of that action to advance a vision for careful and kind care, you have come to the right place. If you are here because you want to learn and be inspired, you certainly have come to the right place. If you are here to be a passive listener who wants to let others do the heavy lifting, we challenge you to move from armchair activist to mobilized change maker. We have lots to offer people who want to be part of that change making movement. We have a school, a community, and a greenhouse that are all gaining momentum. And we invite you to check out our upcoming opportunities to learn, to join a chapter, and to turn ideas into action. We call those mini revolutions. There will be a link in the chat for the next school offerings. The next cohort we have coming up is June 1st, and we have room for that. We have room for more students in that cohort. I've been waiting for this town hall for months after having read our guest book called Blueprint for Revolution. I recommend it often. Those of you who know me are probably tired of me talking about this book, but it is a must read. The opportunity today is to learn from one of the world's most respected experts in taking action and building movements that transform. We want you to leave today having a better understanding of not what we think you should do, but how you can use your own power to help advance the long game for radical change in healthcare. I'm going to introduce Srdja Popovic and welcome. He is the founder and executive director of the Center for Applied Nonviolent Actions and Strategies, called Canvas. It's a nonprofit organization based in Belgrade, Serbia, that aims to teach the use of nonviolence to make change. He was born and raised in Belgrade, Serbia, then part of Yugoslavia, in 1973. Popovic played the guitar in a rock band and graduated with a master's from the Faculty of Biology in Belgrade. And since his early 20s, he has focused on activism, democracy, and human rights issues. In 1998, Srdja founded the student movement, Otpor, known as Resistance, which played a crucial role in ousting President Slobodan Milosevic, a former Serbian dictator accused of war crimes. After Milosevic was defeated in 2000, Popovic was elected to the Serbian parliament, where he served from 2000 until 2004. Following his career in parliament, he went on to found Canvas and has been its executive director ever since. It teaches people all over the world how to be successful in nonviolent conflict, now working in 46 countries. If that's not enough, he was the 53rd rector of the University of St. Andrews for 3 years, starting in 2017. And in addition to being nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2012, Srdja was listed as one of the top 100 global thinkers of 2011 by Foreign Policy magazine. And in 2014, he was listed as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum in Davos. He is also the author of one of my favorite books, Blueprint for Revolution. You can learn more about his great work at canvasopedia.org, and we'll add that to the follow-up information that we send you. Welcome, Srdja. We are so grateful that you agreed to join us today.
Thank you for this wonderful introduction. Good to see you, Shayla. Good to see you, Maggie. Good to see you, Deli. Good to see so many people whose faces I'm not seeing as a panelist. So it's like I'm actually feeling like I'm talking to the three people. But we are living in the era where technology enables us to reach a lot of people. Hi guys. My name is Srdja Popovic, and as Shayla says, like the key part of this wonderful introduction. That is not a paid advertisement, I promised, Is the part where I was playing a bass guitar in a rock band and learning biology, nothing to do with social change. So when I was a young student in Serbia, and that's the story I keep hearing from people over and over, I thought activism is for old ladies fighting for dogs' rights or something that very weird and bizarre thing. And I was like, it's not for me. But then the bad guy came in, the bad situation stepped in, and faced with this choice, a lot of people decide to flee or to insulate themselves. But some people decide to act, and I hope you are that kind of people. If you are into trying to change something around you, what I'm going to try to do you today is to guide you through the toolbox. What I'm doing for the last 25 years, I'm working with movements around the globe and help them grow. And the way it is done, it's normally that they come to us and they say, oh, we have this big problem. We have this dictator in Rwanda. We have this, we have that. And they decide to take action. And basically, the idea is that working with people from 52 different countries, and I don't know how many fields, ranging from human rights to environment, not there are no two things which are the same. The contexts are different. The scale is different. It's one thing if you try to fix the healthcare on a state level in US. It's yet a completely different thing if you are fixing a corrupt mayor problem in Zimbabwe. But the principles that connect success are the same. And I'm going to take you through the little how to build a movement cookbook, if you want, today. And every time I'll say, I want your takeout to be, I want your takeout to be. So your job is not to look at this and listen to and watch my beautiful slides. Your job is to think how you can apply some of these things to what you're thinking, to what you're hoping for, and to what you are doing. And I think that will be the best takeout. Once again, Q&A button, you put the question there, we record it, and then you jump on a chat with me live after my slides are done. So I will start with something really simple. This idea that it's like though we are looking at these social phenomena, though we are looking very often into these movements, rarely people see what's behind them. We see the mass of the people on the street of Iran, and we're like, oh, wow, what is happening? And then we see the regime cracking them down. And sometimes the movements win, sometimes the opponent win. But every time we are looking at it as some kind of the video game. What we don't see is the engine behind the video game and how this movement start and how all of these things are being organized behind the scene. And basically, this is very often connected to our very nature as a people who attempt some kind of social change. If I was given $1 every time somebody told me I'm too busy doing stuff, I don't have time for planning, I would probably drive a Bentley. But unfortunately, they don't give you money for that. So I'm driving the 2012 Buick. Looking into this, we are looking into this thing that I was involved in, and Serbia was a country of 6 million people at the time. We had a very bad government. So the idea is, okay, there is nobody else to do this job. It has to be us. And this is very much like hobbits in the Lords of the Rings. Maybe we are not the most well-designed people to drive the change. Maybe there are others who should be doing it, politicians, NGOs, but eventually they failed, so we need to give it a try. And every movement starts with a small group of trusted friends. And this is also connection between movements and startups. When you're trying to start up the business, you have the big idea, the big passion. And where do you start is actually with 3 Fs. You start with friends, family, and fools. And this is exactly where you try to fund your business. This is exactly where you start to recruiting the core group for your movement. We were the group of friends, fans, and fools. At the beginning, we were the group of 11 people, and working hard, making mistakes, being arrested, experimenting, trying and failing, brought us to the point where we were 20,000 people. And 20,000 people in a country of 6 million is enough to do anything. So if you want to think through it, you will figure out that there is an engine where you're thinking about your strategy and plan and tactics. There is also another engine where you think about how to bring more people. The people are the bloodline of the people power movement, and more friends and fools and family you can reach to, the more powerful you become. Eventually, this grows to tens, and then hundreds, and then thousands, and then millions. And this is doable. It has been done throughout the history. And when people tell you you cannot do it because you are alone, that's only because people don't see the mechanism behind it. And the mechanism is you think big about the change, but you start small. You start by small, doable things and you escalate over time. The more resources you have, the more courageous tactics you can create. This is a scene from the Serbian parliament on October 5th, 2000. This is where Milosevic called for the elections. He lost elections. We caught him cheating on the elections. We organized a nationwide protest and a general strike. And eventually he conceded and was delivered to the war crime tribunal in Hague. Anybody who was looking at Milosevic for 12 years, if you tell them, oh, there will be a small group of students that will be quintessential in bringing him down, they'll say, bah, it's rubbish. So yes, it's doable. And I've seen many people doing it throughout the 20 years of my career working with activists around the world. Now we are living in a very interesting environment now. A lot of these movements are different than the movements of my era. And in the movements of my era, you would be really thinking about how to do the group vertical organizing. Now we are living in the era of the social media. We're living in the era of technology. And a lot of these contemporary movements, they're very horizontal in their nature. They start around the trigger. You can take a look at the, George Floyd thing few years ago in the US. The trigger becomes the mobilization point. The people start mobilizing and organizing quick. The beauty of it is that it doesn't need a central command or leadership. Another beauty of it, it's completely unpredictable. The most important beauty of it is people own it on the ground because it was not given to them by the organization, but it's their own thing. They own the big portion of ideas and the local tactics. The bad side, even movements need to be led. There must be a joint strategy. There must be a common demand. There must be a smallest common denominator between different groups because anti this and anti that movement don't work. Movement becomes successful only if they know exactly what they want and only if they're able to build some kind of unity around it. Which brings us to the 10 steps for building movement for dummies. And if you ever been in US or like me live in US, you probably remember these yellow books that you can buy in Barnes and Noble. It's technology for dummies, internet for dummies, cooking for dummies. Well, this is movement for dummies, not because I think you are dummies, but because I think that outlining some of these basics is really useful. And first thing in the dummies is you don't start with change, you don't start with enemy, you don't start with problem, you start with battlefield. And this connects movement planning with a military theory. Actually, there's this very wise guy named Sun Tzu, who was the special advisor to the Chinese emperor several thousand years before Christ. And he published the Bible for understanding how you make any kind of change. And if you take the military terminology from that Bible, you can use it in a business or in a planning or in social movements. The name of the Bible is called Art of War. And one of the first thoughts in Art of War is know yourself, know your enemy, and know the terrain. And you will know the outcome of the 1,000 battles. And terrain is where we are looking in first, actually. What is the terrain when it comes to the social change? Obviously, in war, you can have the largest firepower, you can have the largest air force, and you can have the largest navy, and you can just come victorious from the Second World War. This is the case of America and Vietnam. But because the terrain is a problem, Vietnam was at the time mostly the jungle, you cannot leverage your advantage. And this is why US was able to win every battle and still lose the war in Vietnam. So taking a look into this, you actually need to understand that in the world of social change, you beginning with outlining the terrain. So what do I want to achieve and what are the constituencies around me that I'm looking to mobilize? And you start by listening, not by talking. You try to figure out whatever the change is, who are the leading proponents of this change, who are the leading opponents of this change. And these people are easy to figure out and easy to put on the list because they are not too many, but they're very loud. Normally, they're the first people you will spot. And movements start by figuring out how to gather together the leading activists or leading proponents. Most importantly, how to define the people who are your silent support, the people who have similar problem as you have, but haven't be ready to act soon, and how to give them something little that will make them invest. So it's one thing to have a very loud group of the people talking to the tens of thousands of supporters over a rally or a Zoom. It's another thing to have a small group of people giving stickers to the tens and dozens of people who are then putting stickers, because then you are making the first move. You're moving your passive allies into active allies. The moment the people do something for your idea, they become active allies. It's also the moment when they start investing. They invested 3 minutes of their time and 15 minutes of their thinking into putting a sticker. This is the hook. This is where you really want to look at how to expand your small group of friend, fools, and family. Also, within the planning, your key is not to mobilize only allies or possible allies. Your key is in the middle. We are living in the era of political division. We are living in the era on yelling on internet. We are living in the era where effective social media post is defined by the words rage and engage. And this is exactly the era where people in the middle of any given topic, they just pull back. They just don't want to listen to this noise. One of the main effects of polarization given to us by the social media is that we don't see the middle, we don't engage with the middle, and the middle pulls back from all of this noise. Effective movements understand that real numbers for any social change are in the middle. When you take a look at one of my favorite Hollywood blockbusters is called Milk. It's a movie about the first openly LGBTQ elected person in the United States, Harvey Milk. And you can see his evolution on this spectrum in the movie. From somebody passionately talking only about the issue that hits him, which is gay rights, to somebody running for mainstream office on a San Francisco council, being elected on a thesis that whether he's gay or straight, he's going to curtail San Francisco of the dog's poop. This is the thinking evolution of successful movement. Thinking how you have something that you are very passionate about, but also thinking how to bring on board the people who have a different problem and then connect their problem, dog's poop, with your problem. Gay people have been never elected to the office, and then merge the two. So if you want to understand the spectrum of allies, watching or rewatching Milk, Champagne is amazing, is a very good way to start. Only then you are able to make some kind of unity and figure out what may be the smallest common denominator. What is your mission statement? What do you want to achieve? But once again, formulating this mission statement, it's not only you and your small, very passionate group. It's actually you are formulating it as intersection between what you want and what pisses other people off. And this becomes the happy marriage in the middle. Most of the successful movements were very often the coalition of unlikely partners. Historically, one of the most studied social movements is a Polish Solidarity. That's a movement which in 80s kicked out 1 million Soviet troops from Poland and turned it from communism into what Poland is now, one of the leading members of the EU. That was the coalition of urban intelligentsia who understood that the communist model won't work. Shipyard workers, like the blue collar people who wanted to unionize, and the Roman Catholic Church. So you cannot really imagine these three people or three groups sitting around the beer in the bar, but somehow they found the smallest common denominator and the way to go. So building from the middle is where you really want to look. Then, of course, planning. As I already mentioned, movements are very prone to get engaged in tactics, in protests, in petitions, in doing things. And that's our human nature. We see injustice and we want to act on it. But actually what you really need is some kind of strategic plan. Understanding what what the change is and what the vision is, then devising some kind of general strategy, then making a campaigns that will impact the certain institutions, only then thinking about the tactics. The movements very often take this upside down. They get engaged in tactics and only then they start like, why this is not working? Well, it's not working because you are not engaging the right institution. It's not working because you don't have a strategy to make it. It's not working that a 6 million of people can protest in a rage in a day, but if they don't have a demand, if there is no follow up, that will be time and energy wasted. And understanding historically how targeting is everything, figuring out that you really need to select the right institution, ranging back to the things that everybody learns in elementary school, like the Montgomery bus boycott, but never thinking about why Montgomery and why buses. You had a certain amount of the people asking for civil rights in southern states. You had the battlefield, which was like, oh, we will outlaw racism on a federal level. The coastal and big cities are still with us, but because of the confederate nature of United States, schools are still segregated in Tennessee. How we address this? Do we go on the street and protest in front of the governor's office? Yes, but there will be no effect. Because the governors are elected with the very people who wanted their bathrooms and buses segregated. So instead of that, you put your strong points against your opponent's weak point. And in the case of civil rights movement, that was public transportation. Understanding that people of color don't have much power, but they are the majority of the consumers of public transportation. And if they pool their support and carpool and walk to work, then these businesses will suffer. And then these businesses will go to governors and mayors and say, this is unbearable, we are losing money, we need to desegregate. This is strategic thinking. And this is not something random. And however, we are sometimes driven by the stories and say, oh, Rosa Parks was brave. She stood up in the bus and immediately everybody started boycotting buses. Trust me, there was a meticulous planning behind this. And there was a sequencing of tactics. And first the buses came, and then the malls came, specifically the food courts in malls, and then the schools came. And each single thing was organized, well thought of, and present one small victory after another until all of these things were desegregated. So understanding that targeting is actually your first step, and you need to figure out not only what you want, but to connect this to the right institution, and then figure out that some institutions are more accessible than the others, and then going after the institution which is more accessible. For all of this, you need people. And once again, friends, fools, and family turn into the core group. Core group starts doing something. This thing that the core group is going is raising the attention. The people become interested. You recruit the people that are interested and support what you're doing. Then your small circle of people becomes bigger. This is what we call the recruit, train, act triangle. It's a very interesting concept in nonviolent struggle. Understanding how you make your action the point of recruitment, how you make your recruits experienced people by investing into their skills via training, but also keeping them active by giving them something small to do so they can bring more people. And this is where this recycling sign becomes the machine that constantly produces new idea, new actions generate more people, more training generate more skilled people generate more informed and more powerful action brings more people. And this is the thinking behind the model that Canvas is teaching to people. We're actually now training AI on that model as well. So it's like thinking about how this is your engine of social change. And this is how you start with 11 people and get into the millions of streets of Belgrade or Tehran or wherever you are looking. Then, of course, this eternal dilemma. It's like, is this enough? Is nonviolence enough? Can violence help us better? There is a very interesting scientific research done by two American actors, Erika Chenoweth and Maria Stefan. It's called Why Civil Resistance Work. They were looking at 323 different cases of violent and nonviolent resistance. Guess what? Nonviolent resistance works twice better. So you have about 53% of chance to succeed if you maintain nonviolent discipline. Why? Not only because violence is unethical, it's also because the nonviolent movements win by numbers. And every single act of violence restricts your access to numbers. If there is a protest in my town, and I know it's going to be funny protestival where people are wearing sign and are dressed in costumes and they're chanting slogans and there will be a rock concert attached to it and probably some truck food, I will come with my wife and two kids. If I think it's going to be the tensed interaction between protesters and the police, I will still come because I'm a big fan of the became a pretty big fan of these tear gas things. But then I will keep my wife and kids at home. And if I think this is something where people will be burning things, breaking things, where violence would be included, I will of course stay home. So you see how the participation falls from 4 to 1 and then from 1 to 0 the moment this nonviolent discipline is not there. So training your people in nonviolent discipline, committing to nonviolent discipline, understanding that this thing will guarantee you access to more participants is equally important as labeling violence as bad and unethical. Now, one of the things successful movements do, they build an identity. So this is very typical for successful movements. One thing to build numbers, it's one thing to have strategy, it's one thing to get engaged with your opponents, it's yet another thing to build a brand. And successful movements, they play around values. Successful movements play around symbols. Successful movements play around things like music. How was Woodstock impacting war in Vietnam? It wasn't. Woodstock was there to celebrate the values and give the food for soul for the people in anti-war movements. This is what we are thinking when we are talking group identity. So it's one thing to have an issue-based campaign. It's yet another thing to have a value-based identity of the movement. This is the glue that keeps people together through the harsh times. This is the glue that impacts people behavior, and it changes in a weird way. It's like before I became a passionate environmentalist, I wasn't thinking so much about turning my computer off. I would just leave it in a sleep mode. But then the moment you start thinking about how your individual action impacts the world and you start changing your behavior, this is where you start becoming. This is where you start belonging to the movement. And what you really want in successful movements is for people to belong, not only to be there, yell, and then go home. Eventually, that brings us to the creativity. And if you take a look at another thing that our hosts can share, which is called Tactics for Change, www.tactics4, 4 is the number, change, we're looking into creative activism. Creativity is how we make things less boring. Creativity is based on strategic understanding that you have a goal, that you're going to do something, and then your opponent will do something else. And we examined with Penn State creative activism, specifically something called dilemma action and loveativism, because very often you want to make it funny, not angry. Funny is better because it makes people feel better. It also puts your opponent between the rock and the hard place. And where you're looking in 2015, where a group of Russian activists in Yekaterinburg, which is the third largest city in Russia, decided to call on their mayor, who promised that the potholes will be all fixed by the end of the 2012. Well, it's 2015, and potholes just grow bigger. And they hired a street artist who made a mayor's face around the pothole. And all of you who drive know that your natural response to hitting the potholes is a curse. However nicely and bring you are, it's a kind of visceral thing. And now we have a person to curse. So with a very simple action, you direct anger of the people to the fact that public officials are not doing their work. And then the more important question is what they will do. If they left this graffiti and everybody cursing, then this becomes the topic number one. If because that's the nature of the authoritarian regime in Russia. They don't fix the potholes, but they erase the graffiti. Then the people are even more angry. In Panama City, they were using technology, the little machine that looks like a hockey pack. And when you put a hockey pack in a pothole and the car goes over the hockey pack tweets, and it tweets straight to the mayor's account, and says, "Oh, I'm a little pothole number 2037 out of the Cascade Avenue, and I just heard the car of this old lady, fix me, fix me, fix me." They go to 14,000 tweets a day. And of course, the mayor was opening kindergartens and bragging about his success in fixing whatsoever, but everybody was talking about the potholes. And this is how you make your issue their issue. You need to do it creatively, you need to do it with a passion. And also, you want to take a look at how others have done it, because this is how movements learn. You will be super amazed to understand that dilemma actions and humor are used in movements for over 300 years. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You want to take a look at this database, you get inspired, you do something that you can do. And if you can mobilize people around the potholes, and this is exactly why I'm using the potholes as the example, you can certainly mobilize them about something like a medical institution bill or a healthcare monthly payment. So if you can mobilize them around small, you can certainly mobilize them around something that makes a big part of their budget. Eventually, you need to finish what you start. You need to understand that there must be a final goal, there must be a final solution, and you need to follow it through. So, talking about the healthcare in America, which is I'm a European, I came here, I don't understand why Americans think that the healthcare is a privilege. Where I'm coming from, it's a human right. And you did all of this mobilizing and organizing, and wow, we are now celebrating the Obama care. But how it's implemented and how it impacts your life, it's a different thing. So, understanding that you need to aim for institutional change for them to be permanent, and also how to figure out not to end in the place where you did all the hard work, the thing has passed the local assembly, Congress, or Senate, or whatever, but it's not actually happening in the real world. Or it just came there and sits there forever, like so many legislative things coming from the people. You need to finish what you start. You need to know how to do it. So basically, this was my 3 cents on social movements. I'll stop here and as promised, turn it into questions and answers. I'm on a half an hour mark, I think.